trust you can hear because generally that's the case, but maybe someone could let me know, and then I can be sure that this is coming through. Oh, thank you, Joyce. Hi to everyone. I'm glad to be here today and want to welcome you all to Helps YouTube Live. I had a message from Eric this morning that he wanted me to do this for him today. I don't know any more than that except that he's got something going on, so he's busy this morning. And I'm happy to fill in, but those, once again, are big shoes. So we'll just do the best we can. I have a few items that I thought we could talk about today, and I was thinking that if you have questions about these different topics as we're talking about them, maybe you could put those questions in the chat. If you put like 3 Q's at the beginning, I'll be sure and see those, and it will make it easier to spot and respond. So the first thing I want to talk about is just a very simple matter, but it seems to come up quite frequently, where particularly newer clients or clients that have just given us a creditor or collector to send a cease and desist letter to, or someone that maybe an existing client just is no longer able to pay and they haven't given that information to us yet, or they have just recently done so. So then the client would be receiving potentially emails or text messages or perhaps bills from this creditor or collector, and they just don't want to deal with that any longer. And so if you're receiving emails from a creditor or collector that you don't want to hear from anymore, and you've given that to us or you're about to give that to us, then all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of that email, and you'll see a place that says unsubscribe, and you click that unsubscribe, and that should stop the emails from coming. And if you are receiving text messages from a creditor or collector, or someone that you don't want to hear from anymore, generally you can type in stop, and if you do that right at when you open up the text message and you see that it's no one you want to talk to, you type in stop. Once in a while I've seen it with an X, but it will tell you what to do, and generally it's going to say, if you don't want to receive any more of these text messages, just indicate stop, and so that's what you would do. And if it is a bill that they're sending you and you don't want to receive any more of those bills, then you can do a change of address to helps. And if you change it to our address, it would just be something that you'd see on the bill that would ask if you have a different address or if you want to update or something like that. And so you could just send those to helps, and you just put our address in there, and it would come to us instead of you. So then you won't have to deal with that. And for whatever reason, I'm getting something in front of my screen I can't really see, but there we go. So I just wanted to address that, and let's see, having a hard time hearing you. I'm not sure why. Maybe I can move the microphone closer, and that would help. I think that Derek, our IT guru, is in the background taking care of things for us. So hopefully that takes care of it, and you can hear. Cannot hear. Need a microphone. Well, I've got the microphone and it's on, but let me know when you can hear. I'll just keep talking. But I don't see any questions about that. I hope that all came through. I was simply discussing just the easy process if you are receiving emails or text messages or bills from creditors that you've either already given to us or you're about to, how you can stop that. And just brief overcap in case you weren't able to hear me, that with an email, you can just scroll to the bottom and click on unsubscribe. With a text message, you can open the text message and just indicate stop. Or once in a while, like I say, I have seen an X that you would indicate, and then with a bill that you might be receiving, you could simply change the address to helps address. And if you did that, you should be able to stop any of those calls from coming, and the letters and the emails and all that. So, and of course, if it's a phone call, you just block them. But okay, so we've talked about that, and I hope that you can hear. I know you've indicated that the volume is not good, but hopefully I can see that Derek is working on that in the background. So we'll just hope that that's working. And I will also say that in the office here we're having new carpeting put down, and it's a big process because there are a number of offices and lots of desks and furniture to move, and they're doing it in installments. And I understand that the next place they're going to be working is behind me, and so it could be that it becomes a little bit loud. So we'll deal with that as it comes, and if it is difficult to hear it, we might have to kind of stop a little bit early. But I think for now we'll be okay if you can hear me. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, if we don't have any questions about that, and I don't think that we do, is what happens when a helps client is sued. I had this very sweet lady come into the office first thing this morning. She's a client and has been a client for a long time. But all of a sudden, she received, let's see, on the headset. Okay, I have the headset on. So for whatever reason, it's going through the headset. Can you hear me better now? Maybe just let me know. I was just going to change topics, and I was talking about, much better. I don't know what's the matter, because, well, we did move everything out of this office, and then it was all moved back in, so I'm not quite sure what happened in that process, but everything looks like it's up and running, and the microphone looks good, but apparently not. So we'll just use the headset for now. So next thing I was going to talk about is, unless you missed all that first part, which I can go over again, you let me know, and I can kind of move to that again. But I was just mentioning how we have had new carpeting installed, and they're still in the process because it's difficult to do when there's so many people here. Jimmy, how do you email direct to Eric? Well, you can always go to the info@helpsishere.org, and that would get to him. You can do the Olsen@helpsishere.org, and that would also get to him. So either way, and that should work. So what I was going to talk about next was about when a helps client is sued. And oftentimes, and I was looking at the new people that had been calling in recently, and a number have called us because they have been sued. So the creditor or collector doesn't know their information. They don't understand that this person is perhaps judgment proof. And so they call us, and we go through the intake process, and if they decide to enroll, then we send out cease and desist letters and indicate that the client has very little income. So I was mentioning that first thing this morning, this sweet client walked in. She's been a client for a long time, never been sued, and all of a sudden this happened to her. And she, she didn't understand, first of all, what was going on. Because she's never been sued before. She's never had to deal with anything like that. And so given the number of clients we have, we deal with that, with some frequency, because just by sheer volume of clients, someone's going to be sued here and there. So hopefully it's not you, but even if it is, like with this woman, it's not a problem because her income is all protected. She has Social Security benefits only, and she only has her one bank checking account where her Social Security is directly deposited. And so that account is always going to be automatically protected from garnishment up to 2 times the amount of her monthly federal deposit, and that's her Social Security deposit. And like she said, she is frequently overdrawn, so she never has more than 2 times her monthly Social Security benefit in that account. So I explained that to her, and then while she was here, I went ahead and prepared a letter for the attorney that represents the plaintiff in that case, and that has gone out, and she has a copy of it, and she understands now, and so that's a real comfort to her, and I was glad to be able to help her out with that. And like I say, many people that call in, they indicate they've been sued, so clearly they've been struggling with debt for some time and haven't been able to pay at least one or more of their creditors. And so they've obviously, this has been weighing heavily on them. And then they're finally sued. And so then they call us. And at any point they can give us a call, and we can take over and provide that information to the creditor or collector, the attorney typically, and kind of assure the client. We just go over the information, and if they have just one bank checking account, their income will be protected. So yeah, they get a lot of assurance that way, and they don't have to worry. And so many times I hear people say, I can finally sleep at night. So that's really encouraging, and we're always happy to to provide that information because it should be out there for everyone, but unfortunately a lot of people don't know that, and many attorneys, like Eric would say, don't understand that the protection that Social Security benefits offer in the one checking account. So let's see, Mrs. H, are there any others that I missed first off? But you've got some cues there, so I'm going to pick that one up for sure. Yeah, so sorry for the loss of your kitty. I totally get it. I grieved for mine it's been a little over 2 years now. I'm thankful I still have the one. But okay, so Mrs. H, or Ms. H. I mentioned this to Eric yesterday. I looked at my credit report and it said 5 of my credit cards were paid off. I know Help sent them cease and desist letters. What would that mean? Paid off, not discharged. It's unusual that it would say that they have been paid off. More typically, it would say that they have been charged off. I wonder if that's what you meant to say. You correct me if I'm wrong there, but oftentimes it would say charged off, or maybe it was sold to a collector. But always, if you have a dispute with your with a credit card and they're showing up incorrectly on your account, for instance, that you still owe it when that's not something that you really owe. I mean, there are different ways to dispute these things, but we can go into more detail if that's an issue. No, paid off, not charged off. I would just ignore that, because if it says paid off, that would not be a negative entry on your report any longer. So, yeah. I don't know if what Eric suggested to you, but yeah, that would be more typical, Kathy, that it would say charged off. And we have an article that Eric wrote on charging off credit cards, and I'm happy to send that to anyone that is interested. Yeah. So, okay, so then Yeah, I don't see any more questions about that or about what we were just talking about, but this is kind of a follow-up to the having been sued issue. Uh, because when a client calls us up, or even a potential client calls us up and they've been sued, if they are buying their home or own it outright, that's what they're most concerned about. They're most concerned that they're going to lose their home, first of all, which won't happen. Generally, what happens is if it's an unsecured creditor, like a credit card, they uh, if they file a lawsuit and ultimately receive a judgment, they can make that a lien on your home. Some states it's automatic, others they would have to take a further step to make it a judgment lien on the home. But generally, that is just going to sit there. And it's just the economics of it, if nothing else. First off, like Eric would say, credit card collectors, what they want to do is they want to garnish someone's account if they're not protecting their bank account, or they want to garnish their wages if they're employed and making more than their state protects. And if neither of those are the case, they just let the judgment sit. And if you've got a home and they can make it a lien on the home, they just let that sit. And then if you were to ever sell the home, or if you were to refinance it, they would be paid. But if you own it with someone else, and that gets a little bit more involved, but if you own it like with a spouse, for instance, and your spouse is the one that had a judgment lien on the home, and they pass away, you would take it free and clear of the judgment lien. So they're different things, and we could talk about that specifically. But generally, the only creditor that would foreclose on your home generally would be a mortgage lender that you have not paid. Someone that has loaned you money on the home. They've taken out a lien on the home, and that's called a consensual lien. And that would be different from a judgment lien. So, yeah. Most of the time, that is just simply not a worry. And if a client has, for instance, let's just say you're in Florida, because Florida is one of those states that allows you to get rid of a judgment lien if in fact you're going to sell the home. So if you have a creditor that sued you and has a judgment against you and made that a lien on your home, and you want to sell your home in Florida, there's a process in the state statutes that allows you to send a letter to this judgment creditor, and then you are able to sell your home free and clear of the judgment lien. They're a little, there's a time frame, but it's entirely reasonable. So yeah, that's one thing. Another thing is if a person that's a client, and if we're talking to you about judgment liens and such, and we look in your file, or if you're calling in for the first time, or let us know that you have a home and you have a fair amount of equity in it, it may be that a reverse mortgage is the answer for you. Eric has done videos with Ken Krajewski on reverse mortgages, and that has been a godsend for many people. But it doesn't work in every case. It just, you have to be a certain age. You have to have a certain amount of equity in your home. There are a couple of qualifiers, and if you meet those, which many of our clients do, then you could potentially get a reverse mortgage and not have to make any mortgage payments during the rest of your lifetime. And that's oftentimes a big help for people. But we can talk more about that if you have questions about it. Let's see. Mentions. Okay, we answered that one. In your experience, at what amount owed do you normally see an order of examination? You mean either a debtor's exam, or in some jurisdictions they call it a subpoena. Well, they call it a subpoena to come into court and answer questions, but it's all kind of the same idea. And unfortunately, I can't tell you there's a particular dollar amount. It really depends on the creditor or collector, and maybe more so on the attorney. There are a few attorneys around that just want to call people in for a debtor's exam. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for our clients. But if something like that happens, and once again, I apologize that I can't answer, but I mean, one would think that the larger the judgment, the more likely they would call the person in for a debtor's exam, but that's not necessarily the case. It just depends more on the attorney that's handling it and the client, and their client, so the judgment creditor. But what we do, excuse me, is we send a letter to the judgment creditor's attorney that has requested this, and we provide them with all the information we can on the client's assets. I call the client and we talk about it and we understand what the situation is. They provide us with the documents that they have relative to that. And then I would write a letter to the other attorney and provide documents letting him know why this is not collectible. And if the client has some sort of hardship whereby it would make it difficult for them to either do a Zoom hearing, because a lot of our clients don't have the capability to do that, and others, it might be an in-person hearing, and once again, there could be medical issues that would prevent the person from going in. Some may be bedridden, some may be just extremely difficult to get there. So whatever the reason, we would provide that information to the other attorney. And there are a number of attorneys that will waive that appearance, especially when we've provided them with the documents. So it doesn't have to be anything terribly worrisome for you. We would walk you through it, and most likely we would get it worked out. Let's see. Can they put a judgment lien on a mobile home jointly owned? Okay, so a mobile home is personal property as opposed to real estate. And in many states, you cannot lien personal property. Some you can, some you cannot. So it depends on your jurisdiction whether or not they could put a lien on a mobile home. Let's see. Okay, pardon me. Cindy K asks, if a creditor sues and places a lien on your home, does it make a difference if only the debtor is on the deed? Currently, my husband is not on the deed and title company wants $300 to add. Well, it may be that if you added your husband to the deed and any subsequent liens, if they were just going to be because of your debt and not your husband's, if in fact you pass away before your husband, it's entirely probable that he would take that property free and clear of those judgment liens. If there's already a judgment lien on the property before you add your husband to the home, then that would not go away when you pass away. And if your husband passes away first, then any of the judgment liens could still be there. That's another reason that sometimes people get a reverse mortgage if you qualify. Okay. Okay, so it doesn't look like there are any more questions about those things. So if you have other questions, we can address those as well. Once again, at the beginning, I'm not sure if you could hear me. It seems like you maybe could not. And so we talked about stopping emails, text messages, mail, all that from coming to you if it's a creditor or collector or someone that you just don't want to hear from. There are ways to stop that. And if they're calling you, of course, you can block those messages. So that's what I had in mind to talk about. I kind of just jumped into this morning for Eric, so I don't know if you have any other questions or not. And it's starting to get a little bit noisy here with with the workers. Installing carpeting, you wouldn't think there'd be a lot of hammering and such, but those are the kinds of noises that we hear. So let's see here. Yeah, I was going to switch screens, but then I'm going to lose you. So I guess I'll just say that that's what I had in mind to talk about today. And if you don't have any other questions, and like I say, it's getting just a little bit noisy here, so we will log off for today. I know Eric will be back on Monday, and he will look forward to chatting with you then. So I guess we'll just say goodbye, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend. And it sounds like some people are having some storms, so hopefully it's not going to get too bad. And you say the lightning strikes are bad, so that's very, very unfortunate. I'm sorry about that. Um, these kind of natural disasters are terrible when they happen, but some parts of the country are more used to it than others. And so, okay, so I think that's all for today, and I hope you have, like I say, a lovely weekend. And we'll see you again sometime, but I know that Eric will be back on Monday. And have a great weekend. Bye bye.